friends. Good afternoon. It's another edition of Adult Arts and Crafts from the Warren County Library. My name is Mary Ellen. I'm visiting you here today again from my kitchen, and today I'm going to talk to you about something that everybody hates. Who would have thought, right? A class on something everybody hates. Well, it's about an update on our mask patterns. Now, the first time I did a program like this was back on April 9th. Can you believe that? That was a long time ago, and it was the very first day that the governor asked for us to wear masks in public. So that was the day I began these programs with you and have really enjoyed every single one of them. So today I thought I'd talk about masks again because it's a different world. We've been wearing masks for several months, and a lot of the time we've been wearing them just running in and out of a store or picking something up and taking it off. But a lot of us have returned to work, and some of us never left work, and we're wearing those masks all day long. So here at the library, we've been back since June, working inside the library. We started our curbside service for you way back in the middle of June, and it's going gangbusters. But we have to wear masks all day long to protect ourselves from each other. So we have found some things about wearing a mask that might help you make a decision about how you want to make your mask, okay? We've seen a lot of people wearing masks inappropriately, and so we thought here was a place to give you a little update on it. So I had some thoughts about masks that I've seen in public. The three masks that I showed back in April, I still like them all very much. I wouldn't say that not any of them aren't good. But what I do see is a problem with the way some people are using those masks. If you're not wearing it properly, if you're not sizing it properly, you do have a problem. So I would say the first group that I'm going to mention that bothers me the heck out of me is strippers. The strippers are the ones who wear their mask, and as they talk, their mask goes down and down and down until they expose their nose. Well, you know what our governor said about that. That's a chin strap. That's really not how your mask is supposed to work. So that's something we want to correct with the way we're wearing our mask. That might have to do with your sizing. The other people that are wearing their masks inappropriately are the people that are, I would call, grippers. They're the people that constantly touch, move, and rearrange their mask on their face. If you are constantly touching your mask, you are touching the outside that might have contamination on it. We don't know for sure how much contamination, but once you have done that, it's on your hands, and then your hand could touch your eye or contaminate the counter or the telephone. So that's something we don't want to see. So how do we stop that? The other problem I see are what I would call the gappers. The gappers have their mask opened up on the side in a big gap. Sometimes you see that in this paper type of mask. Because it does not fit well to your face, it can have a very large opening on the side. And that gap is going to possibly spread some germs. So we want to try to fix that. I actually saw that when you're going to cough or sneeze in your mask, you don't want to turn your head and cover your sneeze because that germ will come directly out towards the person next to you. If you're going to cough or sneeze, it's against our normal reaction, but you want to sneeze or cough directly forward with your elbow across your mask because the side is then covered as well. Okay? The other group that I see, I would call the mufflers. Those are people whose mask is so close to their mouth that you can't hear what they're saying. And there's nothing more irritating than being on the phone with someone and both of you cannot be understood. So that's really difficult. And we spend a lot of time on the phone with our patrons now that we haven't been open for the public yet. So that is something we'd like to address as well here. things that might be good about wearing a mask. I should at least cover a couple things, even though they're a little bit comical. If you have spinach in your teeth, no one will know it. If you've never had braces, no one will know it. But, you know, it's really a bit of a joke to say there's a good thing about wearing your mask. Some people say, oh, I don't have to smile at everyone all day. Well, one of the things you have to train to do is smile with your eyes, right? You might have to practice your winking skills or your eyebrow raising, right? So there are some good things about wearing a mask, and the best thing of all is if it keeps us healthy. And so far, we're doing pretty well in New Jersey lately about keeping healthy. Know that there have been over 14,000 deaths of COVID in our state. That is a staggering statistic. And I know some people are really, really unhappy about wearing masks, but if we can save someone from getting this dreadful illness, isn't it worthwhile? I know the governor said one day, you may feel silly wearing a mask, but you'll feel a lot sillier if you're on a ventilator. So that's a chilling thought. So let's think about how we can improve our mask making skills, okay? So let's see, masks that we made the first time around, the one that was my favorite was this style because it fit very close to the face. It was very, very tight, and it kept a lot of contamination from going through. This mask also was fine. Problem was there were some gaps, but it was a fine mask and works very well. And the other mask that I had shown was what we called the Duckbill Mask. This mask is a little bit funny looking, but it is actually the mask that we have decided at the library that we like the best in terms of comfort and understandability on the phone, because it does not touch your mouth, so you can be understood, and it's not constantly rubbing against your mouth all day, which can cause a lot of skin irritation as well. I just want to mention that I don't know that my comments are working today, so if you make a comment, someone would like to try making a comment, I will see, but I have not seen any comments come up. So if you do make a comment, I will try to catch it underneath the video and answer any questions that you have later, all right? So I hope that that helps you. So I'm going to go forward. I'll let you know that in the description for today's class, I did put an updated instruction sheet for the updated Duckbill Mask that I'm going to show today, and I'm going to go through every step from the beginning to end, and I think it'll be very clear for you how to make it and how to clean it, and simple enough and cheap enough to make for yourself and the rest of your family, all right? I've made a lot of these masks, and it's nice to have a change. Wash it when you come home, throw it in the wash, and have a fresh one on the next day. So I'm going to move my camera so that you can see what's on my table in front of me. Put it down here. All right. Just this week, Duke University came out with a test of masks that people are currently wearing. And I will mention that the homemade masks did very well. So don't be afraid that they're not working well. They are. The masks in their testing that did not work well were the gator style mask. They did not like those at all, and they did not like the bandana style mask. But as long as you're using good quality ingredients and you are making it fit your face, the homemade mask is still a winner. So, this is what the instruction sheet looks like. It's attached to the description of this class. I'll put one in the comments as well when the class is over. And it is on our Pinterest board as well. All right. So, the first thing you do is you're going to be cutting 2 rectangles of fabric. Your directions will tell you 2 fabric pieces, 8 by 11. Now you know a regular sheet of typing paper or copier paper is 8.5 by 11 inches. So all you would have to do is take 1/2 inch off the short side, the 8.5 side, and you have a pattern made for you already in your home. If you are someone who has a smaller face or a child, you can cut this to shape to be a little bit less wide on the face, would be this direction, and less wide top to bottom, this direction. The ones I have here today are 8 by 10 cut for someone with a narrower face. I have started with making them with 8 by 10, and for myself, I've actually changed to the 8 by 11, and I'll model it for you afterwards so you can see how the difference it looks on me and make your own decision. But it's just a little simple 1 inch different if you'd like to make it wider for the width of your face. So you've got 2 rectangles, 8.5 by 11, and you place your right sides together because you're going to sew around the outside. If you notice, if you're a new sewer, I'm just going to speak to you as if you're a new sewer. Maybe you're quite advanced. If you pin at regular intervals, it will help your fabric from shifting. If you're a good old pro, maybe you don't even use pins anymore, but that's your business. If you've not sewn that much, I would suggest pinning, and pinning in a horizontal fashion to the side, like so that as your sewing machine comes around, it can jump right over the pins and not break your needle. There's nothing worse than being right in the middle of sewing and have your needle be broken, all right? So there's your cutting, and here's your sewing, and I used a dark thread so that you can see. That's why I picked this fabric. So normally you'd match the background color, which would be the beige, but in this case I used the blue thread for all of them so that you can see the stitching. I like to start on one of the long ends, and I start in the middle, leaving an opening. Remember to leave an opening because we're going to turn this over. We're going to, return it to the right side. So in all cases with the stitching, I do a locking stitch when I start and when I stop. If you don't know what that means, you just go forward and back and then forward again, and your stitches will never come out. Pretty much never. So if I started sewing here, my sewing machine will come down to this corner. When I get to that spot, I turn it. When I get to this spot, I turn it, and I'm going all around the perimeter, and I get back here to the end, and I do a locking stitch here. What I would do at this point is take out my pins, and I would actually press over my sewing. The iron's not on, so I'm not going to ruin my board. So a press would seal your stitches in, and then something that will help the turning look a little bit nicer is if you just trim the corners off your edges. Now I wouldn't go too close to the stitching because you don't want to release the stitching, but if you clip your corners like so, there won't be as much bulk in the corner of the mask when it's done. All right, so I'm going to just pull these pins out. Always have a little dish or something nearby that you can throw your pins in. Nobody likes to step on a pin later. You grab the pins and show the turning procedure. So in order to turn, if you've left a couple of inches free, I'm hoping you can see this. I'm looking to see, but I seem to be unable to see comments today, or maybe there aren't any. If there are, I will certainly answer all questions later. I will try to see if that's the case. So in turning, you might want to take something like a pencil that hasn't been sharpened, or a dowel, or whatever you have on hand, and poke out the corners like so. So everything is nice and finished except for that little 2-inch, probably about 2 inches, that you did not stitch. So at this point, I take this to my ironing board again and press. All right? So I'll put that on the side. And here is one that is done, that is pressed. Can't even see where my opening is. Okay, so here was the opening, and you can see how hidden that is now that you press it. If you just tug it a little like this, the seam allowance kind of hides inside. And you can press this nicely, and you see we're almost there to make your mask, because it's a very, very simple procedure. So the next thing I'm going to do to improve this mask is I am going to put a channel of bias along the top that a wire can go in to fit this directly to your face. This will help keep any fogging down by your nose from your glasses, or it'll keep the air from transferring in and out by your nose and give you a wonderful fit. So I'll move this to the side because for some people bias tape is a mystery. It's really not a big deal if you understand what it is. If you already do, I'm sorry, I'm just going to do a quick how-to so folks can see what bias is. If you are looking at a piece of fabric, it is woven in a grain situation. The grain runs straight up and across your fabric. A normal piece of woven fabric, if you look at the threads, they run this way and they run this way. In order to make a piece of bias, you want to run directly across that grain. That gives you a flexibility and also an ability to stop fraying of your fabric. So how would you achieve that angle on your fabric? If you happen to have a ruler with markings on them, you'll now know why there is a 45-degree marking on the ruler. Because if you lay that 45-degree ruler down right on the straight of grain, you will have that angle of the 45 degrees. Now suppose you don't have a fancy ruler. Suppose you don't have a fancy cutting board. You can take any piece of paper and you can fold the bottom edge of the paper up against the side of the piece of paper, and you have created a complete right angle, which is 45 degrees. Any square folded on the diagonal will create this 45-degree angle. I hope that that makes sense. But that is a sticking point for a lot of people that don't understand what that means. So once you find that angle and you have cut it on your fabric, you have one slice with that 45-degree angle, as I can show you here. And then if I want to cut the piece today to make the top of the mask bias, I'm going to cut this at a 2-inch. So let me see how I'm seeing with my camera so you can see. This is as close as I can get. If I lay my ruler down at 2 inches, you could mark that with a pencil if you don't have a cutting board, or you can do it like this with a rotary cutter, and I have now created a piece of bias. It is very, very flexible, and these edges will not fray. Once you have this piece of bias, the way you make it into a strip is the first thing you're going to do is fold it in half, completely in half like this, quite simple. And you're going to take your iron and you're going to press. When you press it, you'll see, you get a nice crease right down the middle. There it is. And even while it's still on the ironing board, take one side of it and fold it in like so, and press all the way down. And here is what that looks like. So here is one side. You've folded it in half and pressed it. Now you've folded one side in and you've pressed it again. And then the last thing you're going to do is fold in the other side. So all the raw edges are encased inside this piece. So it's really going to put up with a lot of washings, and it's going to be very sturdy, and the ends are not going to ravel inside your mask. So back to where we were. We left off here with this piece of mask now that was waiting for its bias. So let's see where we have one here. All right, so at this point, the next thing I would say in the directions is, if you look at your bias, one side might look a little bit better than the other, so choose the size that you like. I would say I want this to be around 6.5 inches long. You want to leave probably, I'd say, 1.25 inches or so free at the ends. And then you want to pin this on. I'll show you how I would pin it. These little things, like how you pin it, are the stumbling blocks for some folks, and that's why I'm taking you through the steps very slowly. I hope you don't mind. For those who are sewers for a long time, you may know all of these things, but if you don't, I'm taking you through very slowly. Now, once again, I'm pinning in the opposite direction of what my stitches will be so that my sewing machine can pass this edge. And I know I'm going to sew very, very close to this edge, so I don't want to put my pin right in harm's way of that sewing machine. So as you see, I would pin it pretty close to the edge, and when I come down to start sewing it, I'm going to start here. I'm going to back up and go right across there again, and that will do that locking stitch that I talked about. Let me get rid of this piece so you can see what I'm talking about. So here is the same piece as I was just showing you, and these are the sewing stitches that I would put on it. So I have done a lock stitch right here. Let's say I actually started at the top. I do here, I come all the way down. Now I have a machine where I can move my needle to the right or left for sewing. If your machine has that option, what I did was I moved my needle as far to the right as possible so that the foot was sitting on here levelly and still managed to sew pretty close to this seam. If you have that option and you have an open foot that will allow your needle to do that, I suggest doing that. So I come down this side, lock it, and then I would turn it and do the same thing again in this direction. What we've done is we have created a very nice channel in there. I'll take my pins out now, that our wire will be able to fit in. After we've sewn our bias strip on the top, the other thing that I like to do is sew a stay stitch all the way around the rest of the perimeter of this piece. This will make your mask more sturdy and will make it last longer. So I don't do it right up to the where the wire is. This is really holding it down very well. So I just start right here and I stitch down to the corner and turn to the corner and turn. Now know that I did that at about 1/4 inch seam allowance, and that's just how my sewing was done on the inside. It was 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm not sure if I had made that clear to you, so I want to make sure that you knew that. All right, so now that that is done, we're at this point. The only thing difference with this piece is I have now pressed it. And do you understand that pressing means going up and down with your iron? It doesn't mean pushing across and stretching something. You do a nice press, press, press. Now, you can use steam if you like. You can spritz with a water bottle, whatever works for you in doing that. So see where my pencil is. I'm going to show you what the next step is. I think I'm just going to grab a pencil. Any kind of writing implement will do. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to be marking this for the darts. So let me show you the completed one, and I'll turn it inside out so you can see what this is going to look like. If you have it, I like to place mine on the side where I have sewn this channel, so I know exactly where I am on the mask when I'm doing this. And what I do is I measure in from this crease. Do you see I have only just folded this in half? And I'm measuring in 2 3/4 inches, and I'm going to make a mark with a pencil. You can make a mark with anything. It's going to be on the inside of your mask. It won't show. And I'll do 2 3/4 on this one as well. And then I'm going to connect that dot with the corner and that dot with the corner on both sides. All right? So let's turn this so you can see. So I put the ruler on where this is, and I put the other end on where the corner is, and I make this line. So I will be able to see that when I'm at the sewing machine. Let me mark this one as well, the same way. Now what I probably want to do is put a pin in to hold it while I'm sewing it. And I'll tell you one other little trick. When you're sewing towards something that has a lot of seams in it, like this bump, the machine will take it through very, very quickly if you drag it through. If you, sometimes you want to turn it around and go towards it. If you find you're going away from it and you have this big bump, you might want to sew towards it, because sewing towards it, the machine will not object as much to going over the bump, if you understand what I'm saying. I hope that you do. So here I have sewn that line, following my pencil line on both sides. And the only last thing I need to do in this case is add my elastic. And I just used 1/4 inch elastic. It's nothing special. It's been hard to get, but it has shown up again, and this was purchased for me online by my sister. I thank her very much for sending me some, because she knew I was going through quite a bit of elastic making masks for families. And I would say to cut this at around 15.5 or 16 inches, because everyone's face is a different size. What you may want to do at this point is to try it on to decide what size works best for you. But I say probably around, if you cut it at 16 inches, you'll have plenty of elastic, and you could always make it smaller. You could even tie a knot in this to make it smaller. The one thing I found that with a lot of washings, the elastic starts to fray on the end here. So I would suggest putting something on the end like a fray check product that would keep the elastic from fraying. And if you don't have that, you probably have some clear nail polish of some kind. And putting a little dab on the end of your elastic will keep it from fraying. So at this point, our mask is pretty much finished. All we need to do is put our wire in. And the wire that I have, I put a new notation on the Pinterest and the directions this morning that the Ashland Decorative wire from Michaels really works great in this, because I have tried several different gauges. This is a 5-yard 12 gauge wire that is in the floral department at Michaels. It is it comes in silver, gold, and black. It is 5 yards and it's $5. So it's $1 a yard, so it's quite a bargain. And what I would do at this point is I would fish my wire through. And in the beginning, I used to leave a little bit more wire standing out the end, but now I'm comfortable with just seeing enough wire there so that I will be able to take that wire out to wash it. At this point, I'm going to bring my camera back up. I'll try the mask on and show you what it looks like. So the way I would put these masks on is I would put it first around my neck, get rid of my hair so it's not a problem. I would put this part over my ears and then fit your wire firmly against the shape of your face. Can you see that this has a very nice tight seal? Now this is the narrower mask. I have about an inch further that I could go if I wanted to, but it's amazing to me that a rectangle fits so well against the bottom of your throat here, and the wire makes the top of it fit right against your face. Now if I inhale and exhale, you can see that this is really working to really filter what's going in and coming out of my mouth. If you see a mask that has no movement in it, you'll know that it's really not working that well because either it's too thin or it doesn't fit well because there's no movement in it. Now know that the duckbill is a little funny looking, but think of all the beautiful fabrics that you have that you could try on. So I have quite a few of these. I thought this one kind of goes with today's outfit. Let's put this one on and show you. Over the ears, you can have it go under your hair or leave it just behind your neck. It depends. Everybody likes the feeling of it differently. But do you hear that my voice is clear and not muffled? I can answer the phone and it doesn't sound like I'm underwater, but this is fitting very tight to my face, top and bottom. And what I would do in order, when I'm ready to go home, you also don't want to do a lot of touching of your mask. What I would do is I would remove it with the elastic and just let it lay on my neck like that. I don't have to hang it in my car on my rear view mirror and have a car accident or whatever. Just hang it around your neck like so. And when I get home, I come in the back door right by the laundry room and I pull the wire out. I have a little box on the back of the dryer that I throw the wire in. I turn it inside out. You see it's just the same rectangle, and I toss this in the wash. These go right through the wash, and when it comes out of the washer, if you straighten it out a little, like so, and hang it up on a hanger or whatever, and let it dry, it'll be ready for you in no time to wear again. So this is what I've been doing. This has been comfortable for me. It seems to be working well, and strangely enough, the several I've made seems to kind of sort of go with my wardrobe. So do what works for you. I hope that this little mask rundown was helpful to you. I'm really unfortunate I have not been able to see any questions, so I don't know if there are any there. Going to hit this button. Nope, nothing's coming up. So I will check now and see if there are any questions or comments afterwards and answer them to the best of my ability. If you can't see the response, you can always call the library and find me there. I am at headquarters. My name is Mary Ellen, and I'm working there full time. So I am home now. I've spent the morning there, and so I thank you so much for coming. I hope to do some more wonderful craft programs as the year goes on, and even some sewing ones. If you're interested, I'm thinking now about hairbands, because you know what? COVID hair, you might care. All right, see you next time on Adult Arts and Crafts. And thank you so much. Stay home if you can, stay healthy, stay hopeful. We'll be back in the library soon. All right, have a good day, guys.